I stride through the mahogany doors of Department 11, Los Angeles Superior Court Probate Division, my heels clicking a determined rhythm against the marble floor. The familiar weight of the Redwell folder rests in my hands, each document inside meticulously organized, each tab color-coded, each page a weapon I've spent 3 years sharpening. The charcoal suit I chose this morning hangs perfectly from my shoulders, not flashy, just authoritative. My grandmother's pearl earrings catch the fluorescent light as I move forward. She would have appreciated the symmetry of today. The low murmur of the courtroom dies as I pass the gallery's wooden barrier. Heads turn, eyes widen, silence falls like a guillotine. My father's face freezes mid-conversation. Robert, my brother, stiffens beside him, his golden Rolex glinting as his hand tightens around his Mont Blanc pen. Their attorney Harrison Wells from Wells, Bradshaw, and Pierce squints at me like I'm an apparition. I don't acknowledge them. Not yet. All rise. Department 11 of Los Angeles Superior Court is now in session, the Honorable Judge William Harrington presiding. We stand. Judge Harrington enters, his robe swaying as he takes the bench. He glances at his calendar. Good morning, counselors. We're here for case number PC 287,645, petition for order determining title to property under Probate Code Section 850, Pacific Bank v. Montgomery Family Holdings. I step forward. Julia Montgomery, representing the petitioner, Pacific Bank. The whispers start immediately. Robert leans toward his attorney, lips moving rapidly. My father's face darkens to crimson. Judge Harrington peers at me over his reading glasses. Counselor Montgomery, you're with Carter and Williams now? Yes, Your Honor. I joined the firm last year. I feel Robert's gaze burning into my back. 3 years ago, he'd laughed when I threatened legal action. Who would hire you, he'd asked. You're not even a lawyer. I wasn't, not then. 3 years earlier, I'd been sorting through financial statements in my father's mahogany desk, the desk that now belonged to Robert since his promotion to CEO of Montgomery Real Estate Development. The company my grandfather built, the legacy that should have been shared. I'd found discrepancies first, then altered documents, then finally the forged signatures on trust amendments. Grandmother's signature, dated 3 months after her death. Clean forgeries, but forgeries nonetheless. I confronted them in the conference room that overlooked downtown Los Angeles, spread the evidence across the gleaming table. This is fraud, I said. Criminal fraud. Father hadn't even looked concerned. Julia, you always were prone to exaggeration. Those are legitimate amendments. Grandmother's signature is dated after she died. Robert had laughed. A clerical error in the dating, nothing more. I'm reporting this. Father's expression hardened then. No, you're not. You're confused, Julia. Perhaps overworked. Take some time off. I'm not confused. I'm going to the authorities. That night, I returned to find my office locks changed. By morning, my company email was deactivated. By afternoon, security escorted me from the building, a box of personal items in my arms while employees watched from behind cubicle walls. That evening, Father called. Julia, for your own good, we're implementing the behavioral health clause in the family trust. Your distributions are suspended until you complete psychiatric evaluation. They didn't just push me out, they cut me off completely. My studio apartment seemed impossibly small after the hillside home I'd lost. The second-hand desk barely fit beside my bed, but it held what mattered. LSAT prep books, law school applications, financial aid forms. I taped my grandmother's photo above the desk. They think they've won, I whispered to her image. They have no idea what I've become. 3 years of sacrifice followed. Graveyard paralegal shifts, law school during days. 4 hours of sleep became normal. I graduated from UC Law San Francisco, passed the California bar exam on my first attempt, and landed at Carter and Williamson, of the few firms that could take on Montgomery money and win. When Pacific Bank discovered irregularities in the Montgomery family trust accounts, I was ready. 3 years of waiting crystallized into this perfect moment of return. Now, Judge Harrington reviews the petition. Interesting case, Counselor Montgomery. Care to summarize your position? I open my folder, perfectly calm. Your Honor, this petition concerns fraudulent transfers from irrevocable trusts. Over the past 6 years, the respondents have systematically diverted assets, forged documents, and concealed financial transactions. Pacific Bank, as trustee, seeks remedy under Section 850. My father shifts in his seat. Robert whispers frantically to their attorney. I continue, voice clear and controlled. We're prepared to demonstrate intent, method, and damage with forensic evidence. Harrison Wells rises. Your Honor, these are baseless accusations from opposing counsel. Judge Harrington corrects him firmly. Save your objections for proper procedure, Mr. Wells. I allow myself one brief glance at my family. They didn't just underestimate me. They created me. 3 years ago, after I was thrown out, my new apartment could have fitted inside my old walk-in closet. A secondhand desk crowds against my bed, its surface covered with LSAT prep books, multicolored highlighters, and photocopied pages of probate code. The window overlooks a brick wall. I chose this place for its proximity to the law library, not the view. I work graveyard shifts at Brenner & Associates as a paralegal, 10 at night until 6 in the morning, sorting documents for massive corporate litigation. Most people would find it mind-numbing. I find it educational. You've got a system, my supervisor, Marcia says, watching me arrange financial statements by date, type, and signatory. Details matter, I respond, not looking up. Especially the ones people try to hide. Marcia laughs. You're wasted on document review. I don't tell her that every night here teaches me something I'll use against my family. Instead, I smile and keep working. During the day, I attend classes at UC Law San Francisco. I survive on 4 hours of sleep and black coffee. My classmates complain about reading 50 pages of case law. I read twice that, plus trust and estate journals, plus Securities and Exchange Commission regulations. I'm not studying for a career, I'm building an arsenal. When other students go drinking after finals, I find part-time work doing document review for litigation cases. I become known for finding the needle in the haystack, the buried email, the inconsistent date, the suspicious pattern of transactions that everyone else misses. How do you do it? A fellow student asks after I find the smoking gun in our mock trial exercise. I look for what doesn't fit, I say. When money disappears, it leaves footprints. I graduate in the top 5% of my class and pass the California bar on my first attempt. The day I'm sworn in, I visit grandmother's grave. The marble headstone gleams in the morning sun. I kept my promise, I whisper, placing white roses beside her name. That night, I open my laptop and start building the case against my family. I've been tracking their financial dealings since the day I was forced out. Every public filing, every property transfer, every corporate restructuring, I've documented it all, creating a timeline of suspicious activities. Schedule K-1 forms show income distributions that don't match reported trust earnings. Property transfers between shell companies hide assets. The Form 706 estate tax return filed after grandmother's death undervalues her holdings by millions. I print everything, organizing it into binders with color-coded tabs. The evidence grows until it fills a storage box under my bed. 6 months later, I join Carter & Williams, a prestigious firm specializing in trusts and estates litigation. I work 14-hour days, building a reputation for meticulous preparation and unflinching persistence. I never mention my family name. I let my work speak for itself. Then Pacific Bank flags irregularities in the Montgomery family trust accounts. The senior partner, Franklin Carter, calls me into his office. Julia, there's a case I think you might have unique insights on. He slides a folder across his desk. Pacific Bank versus Montgomery Family Holdings. My heart pounds, but my voice remains steady. What's the issue? Suspicious transfers from irrevocable trusts, possible forged documents. The bank's concerned about their liability as trustee. I open the folder. The documents confirm what I've been tracking for years. This isn't personal, I tell him, looking directly into his eyes. It's professional malfeasance. I can handle it objectively. He studies me. Are you sure? I've been preparing for this my entire career. What I don't say is that I've been preparing for precisely 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. The firm assigns me as lead counsel. I assemble a team. 2 paralegals, a forensic accountant, and a former IRS examiner as our expert witness. We work nights and weekends, building an airtight case. The forensic accountant whistles when I show him my timeline of transactions. You've already done half my job. I had time to prepare, I say simply. The night before we file our motion to compel financial disclosure, I review every document one last time. Each piece fits perfectly with the next, forming a picture of systematic fraud that not even the most expensive attorneys can dismiss. My phone rings at midnight. It's Robert. Julia, he says, voice slick with false concern. I heard rumors you're involved with some bank matter against the family. All communication should go through counsel, I reply. Don't be ridiculous, we're family. We were family when you changed the locks on my office. Silence hangs between us. Then, whatever you think you know. I don't think, I know. I cut him off, and tomorrow so will the court. I hang up and return to my documents, checking each citation, each exhibit number, each page reference. By dawn, everything is perfect. Now, at the present, the first hearing comes quickly. Harrison Wells, my family's attorney, argues for dismissal, claiming insufficient evidence of wrongdoing. I stand before Judge Harrington, calm and prepared. Your Honor, the documentation we've submitted clearly establishes a pattern of self-dealing and misappropriation. I reference specific exhibits, citing statutes from memory. Judge Harrington reviews my briefs, nodding slowly. When he looks up, his decision is clear. The court finds sufficient evidence to proceed. Motion to dismiss denied. It's just the first skirmish in what will be a long battle, but as I pack my briefcase, I catch Robert's stunned expression. He believed his money could bury the truth. He's about to learn how wrong he was. I walk out of the courtroom, my head high, my steps measured. The real fight is just beginning. A week after, the courthouse hallway bustles with morning activity. Attorneys in press suits clutch coffee cups, paralegals wheel document carts, and anxious clients fidget on wooden benches. I stand apart, reviewing my notes one final time. When Robert enters with his entourage, the space suddenly feels smaller. He strides through the security checkpoint like he owns it, flanked by 3 attorneys from Harrington, Wells, and Pierce. The white shoe firm father has kept on retainer since before I was born. Robert's navy suit probably cost more than my monthly rent. His Rolex catches the fluorescent light as he gestures to his lead counsel. Their eyes find me, and I catch the smirks they exchange. Robert leans toward the silver-haired attorney beside him, Harrison Wells himself, and whispers something that makes them both chuckle. The message is clear. Look at little Julia playing lawyer. I straighten my spine and return to my preparation, arranging my exhibits in precise order. Pacific Bank v. Montgomery Family Holdings will be called any minute. I've memorized every document, anticipated every argument. The weight of 3 years of preparation settles across my shoulders like armor. The bailiff appears at the courtroom door. Department 11 is now in session. We file in, Robert's team claiming the respondents' table with the casual confidence of men who expect to win. I take my place at the petitioner's table, arranging my tabbed binders with methodical precision. My paralegal, Sophia, slides into the seat beside me with our additional materials. All rise for the Honorable Judge William Harrington. Judge Harrington enters, his robes billowing behind him. He's known for his no-nonsense approach and encyclopedic knowledge of probate code. I couldn't have asked for a better judge. Be seated, he says, adjusting his reading glasses. We're here for Pacific Bank versus Montgomery Family Holdings, case number PC 287,645. Let's start with respondent's motion to dismiss. Harrison Wells rises, buttoning his jacket with a practiced flick. Your Honor, this petition lacks standing and sufficient evidence of wrongdoing. Pacific Bank claims to represent the interests of a trust that was properly amended by its settlor. These amendments were executed with all legal formalities and notarized appropriately. I watch him closely, noting each citation, each carefully constructed argument. He speaks with the practiced ease of a man who spent 40 years in courtrooms like this one. Furthermore, Wells continues, under the precedent established in Wilkins v. Heartland Trust, The burden for proving fraud in a properly executed trust amendment falls to the petitioner, who must demonstrate clear and convincing evidence of both fraudulent intent and material harm. This petition fails on both counts. Judge Harrington makes notes, then looks at me. Miss Montgomery, your response? I rise slowly, feeling every eye in the courtroom on me. Robert leans back in his chair, arms crossed, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Your Honor, counsel is relying on the pre-2014 version of Probate Code Section 850. My voice is steady, confident. You'll want to check your pocket parts, Mr. Wells. A flicker of uncertainty crosses Wells's face. The current statute, as amended, specifically addresses situations where a trustee, in this case, Pacific Bank, discovers irregularities in trust administration. The 2014 amendments lowered the initial burden of proof precisely to prevent the scenario we have here: beneficiaries using procedural hurdles to block legitimate inquiry into potential fraud. Wells scrambles through his legal pad, whispering urgently to his associate. I place a document on the projector. This is the chain of custody log for all trust documents received from the Montgomery Family Holdings offices. Note the date stamps, signature verification forms, and compliance certifications. Each document was cataloged and verified against exemplars. The judge leans forward, studying the projection with interest. Your Honor, we've met and exceeded all procedural requirements. The bank's standing is clear under Section 17,200 as trustee of the Montgomery Family Trust. And the evidence threshold for proceeding has been satisfied through forensic documentation that I'm prepared to present today. Judge Harrington removes his glasses. Mr. Wells, do you have a copy of the 2014 amendments with you? Wells turns to his associate, who shakes his head slightly. We can obtain one, Your Honor. No need. The court has current statutes. Judge Harrington reviews his computer screen. Miss Montgomery is correct. Motion to dismiss is denied. We'll proceed with petitioner's case in chief. A flush creeps up Wells's neck as he returns to his seat. Robert's smirk has vanished, replaced by a tightened jaw and narrowed eyes. I call our first witness, David Kaplan, Pacific Bank's forensic accountant. As he's sworn in, I notice Robert passing a note to Wells, his movements quick and agitated. Wells reads it, shakes his head, and scribbles something in response. Kaplan testifies methodically about the discrepancies he discovered in the trust account's unauthorized transfers, undisclosed investments, suspicious patterns of withdrawals, all occurring after my grandmother's death. And what conclusion did you reach about these transactions, I ask? They display clear patterns of self-dealing and breach of fiduciary duty, Kaplan states, pointing to his detailed analysis. The timing and structure of these transactions indicate deliberate attempts to circumvent trust protections. Robert whispers something urgent to Wells, who rises. Your Honor, we'd like to introduce new evidence that directly contradicts this testimony. What evidence? Judge Harrington asks. Additional trust amendments and accounting records that clarify these transactions were authorized. I'm on my feet immediately. Your Honor, this violates discovery rules. We received none of this during disclosure despite multiple requests for complete documentation. When were these documents identified, Mr. Wells? The judge asks. Recently, Your Honor. How recently? Wells hesitates. Within the past 48 hours. And you're only presenting them now, in the middle of testimony? Judge Harrington's voice carries a note of disapproval. Objection sustained. The court will not consider undisclosed evidence introduced at this late stage. Robert's face darkens. He scrawls another note and shoves it toward Wells, who barely glances at it before returning to his legal pad. I continue my questioning, guiding Kaplan through specific transactions: a series of property transfers from the trust to a shell company owned by Robert, systematic depletion of my grandmother's art collection, backdated loan agreements. With each revelation, the courtroom grows more tense. Robert's composed facade cracks further, his face paling when Kaplan highlights a particular series of transactions that occurred 2 days after my grandmother's funeral. And these signatures on the transfer authorizations, I say, displaying them on the projector, did you compare them to verified exemplars? Yes. Kaplan says, In my professional opinion, they do not match the exemplars of Mrs. Eleanor Montgomery's signature. Additionally, they're dated 3 months after her death. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Judge Harrington calls for order. When Kaplan steps down, I return to my table, organizing my notes for the next witness. Sophia slides a glass of water toward me with a small nod of approval. I take a sip, then look directly at Robert for the first time since entering the courtroom. His eyes lock with mine, a mixture of fury and disbelief in them. He never expected this, not just that I would become an attorney, but that I would become this attorney, methodical, prepared, unshakable. I don't just practice law, I live it. And I keep receipts. The battle has just begun, but the tide is turning. Judge Harrington is listening. The evidence is speaking. And for the first time in 3 years, justice feels not just possible, but inevitable. The cardboard boxes arrive at 4:55 p.m. on Friday that week, 17 of them wheeled in by a courier service that vanishes before I can even sign the receipt. Each box overflows with unsorted papers, crammed haphazardly as if someone had emptied file cabinets straight into them. Classic document dump, Eli mutters, my paralegal's fingers already reaching for the first lid. They're hoping we'll drown in paper. I run my hand along the nearest box. Count on Harrison Wells to pull this trick. Probably hopes we'll miss the deadline for our next filing. The conference room transforms into our war room within the hour. We push tables together, create sorting stations, order in sandwiches that grow stale as we work. By midnight, we've established a system. Eli and 2 junior associates categorizing documents by type while I scan for specific transactions. Julia. Eli calls around 2 a.m. holding up a folder. These bank statements don't match what they produced last month. I blink away exhaustion, joining him at his stack. The numbers blur, then sharpen as I focus. The dates match, but the balances are different. They've given us 2 versions of the same records. Sloppy mistake, he says. Not a mistake. I grab a highlighter, marking the discrepancies. They're getting desperate. Pull every bank statement from both productions and put them side by side. Dawn breaks as patterns emerge. What seemed like carelessness reveals itself as strategy. Inconsistent record sets, deliberately confusing chronologies, missing pages from crucial documents. They're not just hiding information, I tell my team as the sun creeps through the blinds. They've inadvertently created a trail. I spread the contradictory statements across the table. Look here and here. These transfers don't appear in the first production, but they show up in this one. They've proven these accounts exist, accounts they previously denied having. My phone buzzes with a text from Robert. Hope you're enjoying the weekend reading material, sis. I don't respond. Instead, I draft an ex parte application to compel proper discovery compliance, attaching exhibits showcasing the most egregious examples of their discovery abuses. By Monday morning, we filed our motion, and by Wednesday, we're standing before Judge Harrington again. Your Honor, opposing counsel has engaged in deliberate obfuscation. I say, standing at the podium. My voice remains level despite the fire in my chest. 17 boxes of unsorted documents delivered minutes before close of business Friday, containing contradictory information to their previous production. Harrison Wells rises, adjusting his silk tie. Your Honor, we provided all requested documentation. The volume simply reflects the complexity of these financial matters. Judge Harrington frowns. Mr. Wells, 17 boxes delivered at 4:55 p.m. on a Friday suggests tactical motivation rather than good faith compliance. We've made every reasonable attempt to work with opposing counsel, Your Honor, I continue. Our meet and confer efforts have been rebuffed at every turn. I hand the clerk a folder. These are emails showing their refusal to discuss our discovery concerns. 3 separate requests for conference, all ignored. Wells sputters. Your Honor, we received no such. Email receipts are included, counsel, I interrupt, showing when each message was opened. The judge studies the emails, his expression hardening. Mr. Wells, this court takes discovery obligations seriously. I'm ordering sanctions of $5,000 against your firm for these tactics, and you will provide a properly indexed inventory of all documents within 48 hours. Robert glares at me from behind the defense table. My father's face remains impassive, but his knuckles whiten around his pen. Later, locked in a courthouse bathroom stall, I press my forehead against the cool metal partition. Exhaustion floods my bones. 3 straight nights with barely 4 hours of sleep has left me hollow, running on caffeine and fury. For a fleeting moment, doubt creeps in. Can I really beat them? They have resources, connections, a lifetime of privilege. My phone buzzes. A text from Eli. Just saw your father in the hallway. His expression was priceless. You've got this. They don't. Later that day, I met Margaret Wilson, the former assistant of my father's and the family accountant at the nearby cafe. I found it, she says without preamble, spinning her laptop toward me. The smoking gun. Robert created a shell company that received trust assets, then funneled them through 3 more entities before they landed in his personal account. I study the transaction map she's created, a web of deceit visualized in flowchart form. Can you testify to this? With pleasure. She taps a sequence of numbers. And I've prepared these questions for his deposition that will back him into admitting the transfers without realizing what he's admitting. I review her suggested questions, adding my own, creating the perfect trap for my brother's testimony. His arrogance will be his downfall. He's always been too impressed with his own cleverness to imagine anyone could outsmart him. That afternoon, the Los Angeles Business Journal runs a story. Family feud and financial giant. Montgomery heir takes on dynasty. My phone fills with messages from former colleagues, old friends, people who watched me get escorted from the building 3 years ago. As I prepare for tomorrow's deposition, I review Robert's previous testimony transcripts, noting his patterns, his tells, the moments when his confidence slips. I'm not just building a case now, I'm constructing his downfall, one document at a time. The document war has cost me sleep, but it's given me ammunition. My family doesn't realize that in trying to drown me in paper, they've handed me the very rope I'll use to pull their empire apart. The next day, Robert takes the witness stand with the practiced ease of someone who has spent a lifetime in positions of authority. His tailored Italian suit fits his broad shoulders perfectly, power move, calculated to impress. He adjusts his crimson tie, smiles at Judge Harrington, and settles into the leather chair. Please state your name for the record. Harrison Wells intones. Robert Montgomery, CEO of Montgomery Real Estate Development. Wells leans against the podium with casual confidence. Mr. Montgomery, can you explain your understanding of the family trust structure? Robert nods, launching into a well-rehearsed explanation. His voice carries the perfect mix of authority and deference. The Montgomery Family Trust was established by my grandfather in 1976 to preserve family assets and ensure proper succession planning. After my grandmother's passing, certain amendments were made all properly authorized, streamline operations, and improve efficiency. In the gallery, Montgomery family friends nod sympathetically. A retired judge, 2 bank presidents, a state senator. The Montgomery inner circle assembled to witness what they assume will be another family victory. I make notes, letting him ramble. Each word builds the trap higher around him. For 45 minutes, Robert weaves a tapestry of half-truths and mischaracterizations. Wells guides him through prepared questions designed to portray the transactions as simple administrative adjustments rather than what they truly were, calculated theft. When Wells finally concludes, no further questions, Judge Harrington turns to me. Cross-examination, Counselor Montgomery? I rise slowly, selecting a single manila folder from my table. The courtroom falls silent as I approach the witness stand. No legal pad, no notes, just one folder containing 6 pages. Good morning, Mr. Montgomery. Robert smiles tightly. Julia. That's Counselor Montgomery in this courtroom. My voice remains neutral, professional. Of course. His smile freezes. I place the folder on the rail of the witness box. Mr. Montgomery, you testified earlier that the amendments to the Montgomery Family Trust were executed in March 2019, correct? Yes, that's right. And you personally signed those amendments? I did. Along with your father? Yes. I open the folder and withdraw the first document. Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Judge Harrington nods. I hand Robert the document. Mr. Montgomery, this is your American Express statement from June 2019. Could you please read the highlighted transaction from the 17th of June? Robert squints at the paper. A muscle twitches in his jaw. Montage Beverly Hills, $752.4. And what was that charge for? Lunch, apparently. With whom? He shifts in his seat. I don't recall specifically. I produce another document. This is the receipt from that lunch. Please read the names written at the bottom. Robert clears his throat. Robert Montgomery, Harrison Wells, Stanley Pritchard. And who is Stanley Pritchard? Our document services provider. I nod, retrieving another paper. This is Mr. Pritchard's invoice dated the 18th of June, 2019. Would you read the description of services, please? The gallery leans forward collectively. Robert's fingers tighten on the paper. Preparation and backdating of trust amendment documents as requested. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Judge Harrington's gaze sharpens. Mr. Montgomery, can you explain why your signature appears on these documents dated March 2019 when you were clearly meeting with Mr. Pritchard to create them in June? Robert's face pales. There must be some mistake. Is it also a mistake that your grandmother's signature appears on these amendments dated March 2019, despite her passing in December 2018? Harrison Wells jumps to his feet. Objection! Counsel is badgering the witness. I'm establishing timeline inconsistencies central to our case, Your Honor. Overruled. Judge Harrington leans forward. The witness will answer. Robert loosens his collar. We had her permission before she passed. The paperwork was simply finalized later. With a falsified signature? That's not. Your Honor, I interrupt. The petitioner calls Margaret Wilson. The courtroom doors open. A silver-haired woman in a modest navy suit walks toward the witness stand. My father half rises from his seat, his face draining of color. As Robert steps down, he whispers, "What are you doing?" I don't respond. Margaret Wilson is sworn in. For 27 years, she served as the Montgomery family accountant until her abrupt termination 3 years ago, coincidentally, the same week I was forced out. Miss Wilson, what position did you hold at Montgomery Real Estate Development? Chief Financial Officer and Family Accountant from 1994 until 2022. And why did your employment end? She straightens her glasses. I was terminated after refusing to participate in what I believe to be fraudulent financial activities. My father whispers frantically to Harrison Wells, who scribbles notes with increasing urgency. Could you elaborate on these activities? I was instructed to create alternate financial record zones set for tax authorities and banking institutions, another for internal use. I was also asked to backdate numerous documents after Mrs. Montgomery's death. Who gave you these instructions? She looks directly at my father, Thomas Montgomery, with Robert's approval. For the next 30 minutes, Margaret methodically details each fraudulent transaction, each manipulated document, each misappropriated fund. The judge's expression hardens with each revelation. When she finishes, the courtroom sits in stunned silence. Judge Harrington removes his glasses, pinches the bridge of his nose, then addresses the court. Based on the evidence presented, this court finds in favor of the petitioner on all counts. The respondents have engaged in clear and convincing fraudulent activity. I am ordering the immediate return of all diverted assets to the Montgomery Family Trust under Pacific Bank's sole administration. He pauses, looking directly at my father and brother. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for review of potential criminal charges. Court is adjourned. The gavel crashes down. Chaos erupts around me. Harrison Wells demands sidebar conferences. Family friends hurry from the gallery. Reporters scribble furiously in notepads. I methodically return each document to my litigation bag, organizing exhibits with the same precision I've maintained for 3 years. My hands never tremble. My father approaches, his face ashen. Julia, we need to talk about this. I close my bag. Please direct all communication through counsel. For God's sake, we're family. We were family, I correct him, until you decided I was expendable. I stand, smoothing invisible wrinkles from my suit. The weight I've carried for 3 years has lifted. No elation, no gloating, just the quiet satisfaction of truth finally exposed to light. As I walk toward the exit, attorneys from other firms nod in recognition. A court reporter smiles. The bailiff holds the door. Outside, sunlight bathes the courthouse steps. I descend into the bright Los Angeles morning, neither looking back nor rushing forward. Justice doesn't need an audience. Attorneys nod as I exit the courthouse, their eyes following my path. Not the pitying glances from 3 years ago when I carried a cardboard box of personal items from Montgomery Towers. Not the dismissive looks when I applied for paralegal positions with an incomplete law degree. These nods carry weight, respect. Heard you schooled them in there. Nice work, Montgomery. Martin Chen, senior partner at Halstead & Wright, extends his hand. His firm rarely acknowledges competitors. Not work, I say, shaking his hand firmly. Just the truth. I walk away without looking back at the courthouse steps where reporters huddle around Harrison Wells, desperately trying to spin the devastating ruling. My heels strike a steady rhythm against the sidewalk. No triumphant smile crosses my face. Victory isn't meant to be worn like jewelry. The cafe on Figueroa welcomes me with its familiar scent of roasted beans and leather chairs 15 minutes later. I've spent countless hours here during the 3-year journey studying court procedures, outlining arguments, rehearsing cross-examinations. Triple shot latte? Marco asks from behind the counter. He's watched this transformation from beginning to end. Please. I slide into my usual corner table, open my laptop and check emails. 73 new messages. Most contain variations of, "Did you really?" or, "Is it true that?" One subject line stands out. General Counsel position, Silicon Coast Technologies. I open it, scanning quickly. Impressed by your recent courtroom performance and meticulous attention to detail. Seeking in-house counsel with your specific expertise. Competitive compensation package. My phone buzzes with a text. Robert's wife? No, Samantha. My younger sister, who stood silent at the family meeting where they voted to cut me off, who never returned my calls after, who sent a Christmas card last year with no return address. You were right all along, I'm sorry. 7 words, 3 years late. I set the phone down, watching the screen darken. What response would serve justice? What would serve healing? The Los Angeles Times website features a sidebar, Montgomery family facing penalties after trust fraud ruling. Father's stone-faced photo, refusing to look directly at the camera. I type my reply to Samantha, deleting 3 versions before settling on, "This was never about being right, it was about doing right." Send. After I drank coffee, I was too tired, so I went home to rest. 3 months later, hills rise gently beyond the cemetery gates. Wind rustles through cypress trees, carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass and roses. I place white lilies on my grandmother's grave, their petals bright against the gray granite. We did it, I whisper, adjusting the flowers. Everything you built, they couldn't take it after all. 3 years ago, I stood here broken, talking to a headstone because no living family member would speak to me. Now I stand whole, different. The inscription catches afternoon light. Eleanor Montgomery, 1935, 2021, Truth Endures. She knew. She must have suspected what they planned after her death, leaving those forensic breadcrumbs for someone to find. For me to find. The tech company's offer awaits my response. A corner office overlooking Los Angeles, managing legal affairs for an organization that builds rather than destroys. Starting fresh, without the weight of the Montgomery name hanging over my career, I accept. A week later, my new office stands 34 floors above the city. Glass walls, unobstructed views from downtown to the Pacific. Light floods the space, illuminating the modern furnishings and my small collection of personal items. The team assembles for our first meeting, 4 attorneys who report to me, none aware of my history beyond professional credentials. They bring spreadsheets, proposals, strategic plans. Before we begin, says Andrea, the senior compliance attorney, we wanted to welcome you properly. She places a small gift bag on my desk. Inside rests a crystal paperweight engraved with scales of justice. Thank you, I say simply, placing it beside the silver frame that holds my grandmother's photograph. I turn toward the windows, the city spreading below like a vast circuit board of possibilities. 3 years of single-minded purpose now complete. The fraud exposed. The assets returned. The truth acknowledged. This loop is finally closed. But another begins.